All right, welcome to the Focus Podcast. We're back, episode 50, and I got Eric and Rob from The Riches. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. So you have a new album recently? New album? How recent was your newest, or is your first release, right?
Yeah, it's our first album. It was released August 18th.
Here, I'll get you over there.
Last year. And it's our first full album. Our first release before that was our single, and that was July 18th from the album.
Okay, and so how long was this whole process? And well, obviously your whole life leading up to the first album,
Yeah,
but like production wise, from start to finish, really kind of.
Well, it took a while. We were derailed a little bit about. Yeah, well, all said, it took about 2 years. Yeah, and then there was a hard drive crash and some technical struggles there towards the end, right before the mixing stage, and so that derailed us a little bit. But in terms of recording, it was about two years, and the first of those years we sort of we were sort of balancing with playing shows and rehearsing, and it wasn't really until the second year that we decided to buckle down, and I think that year we didn't rehearse at all or play any shows or anything.
Yeah, we've been together for about 8 years, and we were playing lots of shows, at least one a month for a long time, often twice a month. And like Eric says, eventually we just had to change gears and just stop and just focus on the recording.
Well, it's you got to. It is tough to do both. I find it's very difficult to do both, like a consistent, shows, and then, trying to dabble, because that's what you're kind of doing in making an album. And to me, I had to like completely remove myself from doing shows to fully immerse myself into the production of it. So how many? To me that's a short time to make an album, but you guys had original material leading up to that. When did you guys first start working together or meet?
Well, so we were neighbors originally, and that was we'd been neighbors for probably a couple of years before the project started. We didn't really know each other all that well at first, until we hit it off like sort of musically in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and in that initial month, like May, June 2016, we realized that we had this sort of complementary kind of musical abilities or whatever, and once we realized that, we sort of kind of treated it like an open door kind of thing, where every couple of days we do a couple more tracks.
Yeah. Well, the way it started, as Eric says, we'd been living together, living next door to each other for a couple of years or so. And I was on my own. I was having a drink. My wife was away. And I could hear, for the first time in 2 years, I could hear Eric playing guitar next door. I'd never heard him through the walls before. And I started, like singing along to what I was hearing. It was really good. It was really interesting. And I knew he was going out for a smoke every now and then on the balcony that we had in common between our apartments. Mm-hmm. So I just waylaid him, and then I ended up drinking with you and Megan, just chatting all night. And we were like playing guitar and stuff. And then when we got started, we were doing 2-3 songs a week for like some of the songs on this album we did within the first few weeks
most
of meeting.
Most,
because we've got so much material now. Like we've got so much to get through. But that was how it started. And it turned out we'd both come to Toronto hoping to start bands. And I had no chance of doing that. I can't even play an instrument. I just write songs in my head. So I had little hope of doing that. I hadn't been in a band since I was in my mid-20s. And so it felt really fortuitous.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just meant to be, and kind of you could both driving for the same, goal, and then the universe presents you with an opportunity.
Yeah, that's it. And for me personally, like, it felt at that particular time, it did sort of feel like a now or never kind of situation. I was in the same boat. I moved to Toronto in 2009, and had always played in bands in Peterborough, where I'm from.
Oh, nice. I know lots of Peterborough folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I assumed that I could just fall into a band in Toronto, and it turns out you can't really that doesn't happen. You have to actually take steps, but it was difficult for me to take those steps for whatever reason, but this was a lucky thing.
It is hard. I mean, when I was younger, we were talking a bit before we started about Prague. I went to Prague to try to start a band with my old friend from my hometown when I was like 21 or something, and spent 6 months there and didn't have any luck. Then we moved to Bristol in the west of England, and we did lots of recording. We played some shows as a duet, but actually getting a band together outside of your hometown when you have to work, everyone you meet is so busy. You got it's really, really difficult. So if it's a fluke really when you do find the opportunity.
I agree, yeah, and it's well, I think it's also kind of your hometown. You're immersed in your scene too, right? You're like, you know somebody who knows somebody, or like Dr. Keys, who I work with now a lot. I've known him in the scene for a while, but my sister's ex-boyfriend was like best friends with him, so we've known each other within the scene for a while. But now eventually we're working together like 15 years later, But I think there's a lot to it than that. Like, like you're in your environment, it is tough to break out into a new city and totally find a band. I know exactly what you're talking about. I met some young guys here from Edmonton way back who packed up all their shit and came here. And, it was a tough grind for them too. And
I mean, we joked about it a lot in the process of trying to make it a band, because it was just Rob and I for the first few months before we brought Brett in, synths and trumpet, and but yeah, we kept saying, like, through all these auditions and meetings of different musicians trying to get it off the ground, that like if we were in Jersey, we could do it in a weekend. If we were in Peterborough, we could have, there'd be a whole room full of people that we could pull into it. So, it's something about maybe the size of the city and the fact that there's so many different scenes already kind of active and already formed. It felt a little bit difficult trying to break into it.
Yeah.
Where was the first gig you guys played together in Toronto?
It was at the Horseshoe Tavern.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And slightly different lineup to what we have now, but it was a good show. It was fun.
It was a good show, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love playing there.
Yeah.
It's a great spot. And you guys are playing. You guys are playing there soon, right?
Yeah, we're playing there Saturday, January the 18th.
18th, nice Saturday slot. That's sweet.
Yeah. City Gate Syndrome from Montreal and Still Waves.
Okay.
A local band. So yeah, it's gonna be a good night, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I played a few times there, and I finally, because I got a band together the last couple of years.
Oh yeah.
So last time we played there was a year ago, in February.
Mm-hmm.
We played. I had my whole band there, and we played. October 2022. So I played twice with the band there too.
Great sound, right?
Oh, it's just you feel so lucky to be on that stage.
Yeah.
And you glance over and you see Gord and Neil Young, and it's like, these people played here on the same stage I'm standing.
Yeah.
It's
Stomp
just
and
like,
Tom.
yeah, and the same floor, you're looking at the same shit. It's like, it's very, to me, it's a privilege to play in a place like that, and it's just very humbling at the same time too. And it also, like, it's such a great stage to really let yourself out and like kind of you have that room to move around. I'm like kind of I don't know what to do with myself sometimes as like a lead singer. You just because I'm used to standing there rapping and it's just about like the lyrics coming out. But there I feel like I can kind of just prowl around the stage a bit more and.
It's nice to have space because there are 6 of us and we've played some shows where we're just
you're just like don't breathe
and I like to throw myself around a little bit when I play guitar. It's a physical thing, and we've had all kinds of incidents. Let's call them.
I had a guitar player. I don't know if you guys know Fraz. He's a guitar player in the city, but he's pretty tall, lanky guy, and a few times he's like kicked an amp over just by accident, and it just like knocked a beer over here.
I found myself in and on the drum kit a few times,
just surfing on it.
Yeah, surfing along.
So you came from Peterborough, in the UK, where
I'm from Jersey in the Channel Islands.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So when did you come over to Canada here?
I first came over. Well, I moved around a lot in my 20s, but I first came over when I was 20.
Okay.
And then I went back to England for a year or so. Then I lived in Prague for a year or so. Then I lived in China with my brother. My brother's lived there for about 20 years.
Amazing.
So I lived with him and his family for a while. And then I came back to Ottawa. I was going to just work and save up to go travelling again. And then I met my wife at a party. And been in Canada since then, I guess 2007, 2008.
Nice. I like Ottawa. Ottawa's a cool little music scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its problems downtown, but it's like any Canadian city.
Everywhere,
but yeah, I like it's got this little quaint, tight music community.
Yeah. Well, my dad grew up there.
Okay.
My dad was Canadian. But I actually have a lot of family from Peterborough as well.
Really?
Yeah, my great-grandmother was born and raised in Peterborough, and I have a few relatives buried there. So it's sort of an interesting connection.
Yeah. It was already connected before.
It follows you around, man. Peterborough.
Yeah.
You can't.
It sure does.
You can't escape.
You guys are very talented and you're everywhere. And I just started playing in Peterborough a couple of years ago. And I love it. It's I have a few friends there. I had a guy here, Ty Wilson. He was on episode 35. He was staying here actually for a while.
Do you remember where you played?
He was doing like where I played in Peterborough. I played at Jethro's.
Okay.
I played at the Red Dog one of the last times.
Defunct now, I think.
Before
right?
it's gone. Urban quite a few times. There's a coffee shop. What's the one little coffee shop?
Is the Spill still there? Is that the one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So like 4 or 5 venues, but I played a few times at Urban. I played at a kitchen party there. This lady was hosting a kitchen party. But you guys definitely have your own unique style in Peterborough. The city alone in general, And I find that every artist I meet there has their own kind of style too. It's like uniquely Peterborough.
It's cool. I mean, that's how I remember it. I feel a little bit detached from it now that I've been in Toronto for so long. But yeah, when I was growing up there, it felt like you could walk down, Hunter Street or George Street, and you hear live music coming from all corners. So great to hear that you still have that perception of the place.
Yeah, well, my dad does. He used to do kitchen delivery stuff. So like anything that kitchen require equipment, mostly like heavy duty equipment. So he used to do deliveries there for years and years. So I used to tag along as a kid with them. So there was always like some sort of connection with Peterborough for me.
Well, it's unique, right? Because it's not GTA.
Yeah,
it's got its
exactly.
Own, geographically, it's kind of isolated.
Yeah. So what other places did you guys play in? Did you guys just play in Toronto, or did you kind of get out of the GTA together at all?
We have played in Hamilton.
Just gonna change the
Yeah.
battery.
And
Keep going.
we played in London as well.
Windsor.
Oh, Windsor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Windsor,
Played
that's
in
a
Windsor.
far one.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It was just the once. Yeah, but in Hamilton, I think we played the Doors bar.
Yeah, that's the only place I've played.
Yeah.
The metal place.
Yeah.
Yeah, taco joint.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was that other old house.
Right.
That's an old house. The taco
Yeah, that's the
taco
one.
joint is an old house.
Is that what
Yeah.
I'm thinking? No.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of that. Yeah.
No, we did. Yeah, we played another larger place.
We did, yeah.
Right. It was. I think it was a week show. I'm sure you.
Casbah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
It was a blizzard. It was just.
It's on the
In
same
house,
street as you're going towards the taco. They're all there's like 4 or 5 I
Okay.
think within one little strip there. Hamilton's turning into a nice spot now. It's getting some cool little unique venues.
Yeah.
And I had Brian Fontes over here a couple weeks ago, and he moved to Hamilton with his wife, and he says the scene's really good. And what I find is that a lot of people that kind of got pushed out of the West End are living in Hamilton now and starting up a scene. And
Yeah.
I've heard this. Yeah.
yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah. So Hamilton, London's a rough city. Do you know where you played in London?
We didn't play in London, so I.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was mixing it up.
Oh, Windsor.
Windsor, yeah.
Do you know what the place in Windsor was?
House of Palm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's one of the best. Actually, it's one of
It's
the best
great.
places in Canada. It was labeled. It was rated high up
Oh, really?
a while back. Those guys are pretty hardcore
For ping pong? Or for music?
for music.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
they're
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Ping pong
Um,
was intense.
Yeah, we were picking up people's ping pong games. I remember as the songs got faster, like
Oh,
the
really?
ping pong action
Yeah.
became more intense.
That's cool.
And it wasn't just one way. I felt like I could see the intensity of the we were playing off the energy of the ping pongers too.
For people getting intense after, it was like
Yeah, it was-
hardcore.
It was.
I played Dr. Keys and I. We went out to Windsor 2 summers ago, and it was this place called the Lion's Head, and it was like one of these places that was really pristine back in the day, like a big, huge venue with hotel on it and all that stuff, and you could tell like big bands would come from Detroit and play, but it's like long past its heyday. But it was really nice. The owner was really cool. He was very appreciative of like new music coming in and us driving all the way from from Toronto.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool, interesting spot. And last year, or 2023, Dr. Keys and I, we pretty much touched like every little corner of Southern Ontario. Like we went all the way from Windsor. We went up the side to Goderich.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to London and what's the other one? Stratford.
Guelph.
Guelph. Yeah, we hit Guelph a couple of times. I went all the way down to St. Catharines. We went all the way up to Ottawa. I even went up like a little north of Ottawa to Wakefield, which I really enjoyed. And every kind of little stop in between Peterborough. At first, the first place I ever played was Montreal, and then it was just like, okay, let me just start finding little
Connect the dots.
towns between. And Peterborough was like it's a great kind of almost halfway point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a really cool spot in Kingston called Wolf Island. You guys should look into that. It's
Okay.
really
I've heard of
unique.
that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like Prince Edward County, almost kind of, but it's like you need a ferry to get there, and it's nice, unique spot, and also so it's a venue, it's a hotel, and it's a place where you can record, and you got beautiful wilderness. It's just like, so the scene is set for for recording,
Magic.
and people come from all over the world to
Cool.
do a show there and just maybe record for a month or so.
Wow.
And Chris is there. He's an amazing musician, and he will just be like your fill-in guy. So if you need a guitar or whatever, like if you need some sort of instrument on your recording while you're there, he can just kind of step in
That's cool.
and help
Sounds
you out.
good.
Yeah. So you guys were saying about Lou. He mixed and mastered your album. So how did that how did you guys meet up with?
Well, we used to have our rehearsal studio was at the Cube.
Yeah,
the,
we were saying
iconic,
downstairs.
Cube building. So I think we moved in there in 22,
21.
21.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a great fun era. The band, this dilapidated, rat-infested, artistic building. And we saw quite a lot of turnover there with the people subleasing, and Lou was the last guy to take over the lease before they kicked everyone out, I guess, to demolish the place. And we hadn't really done any mixing or recording with him at the Cube, but Lou got this great new place on Queen West, and so we came along with him, and we still rehearse there. And now we're mixing with him too, and we just recorded a single with him, which we're going to release later this year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the landscape has changed over Toronto all these years, and I grew up in the city too, so I know it from like the 80s, 90s perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're familiar with like Dufferin and Davenport area, just north of there is Gary Street, and there's all these like studios.
Oh yeah.
And now it's happening. It's like these venues are there, and like art studios and all this shit. But I remember this 20 years ago when it was like shithole.
Well, so
like,
was Rehearsal Factory?
Yeah, it
there
was
then.
Yeah, it was right at the end of the other side of the street.
Yeah.
But if you go in the other opposite end of the street, it's like all these venues now. But I grew up there as a kid in the 80s and the 90s, and that's where we caused shit, like throwing eggs and being little shits. And then even 20 years ago, that's where I used to go to meet my buddy to get weed, and like there would just be like old bicycle shops there, and there was really nothing happening. Now it's like one of the center points of.
There's that great bar that has the arcades and pizza.
Yes, is that on?
Escapes me now. It's on
Is
Geary.
that on Davenport?
It's on Geary, I think.
Gary. Oh, there's yeah, and there's one at the top of Ossington, and Davenport, which is like it's like an Italian joint.
Yeah.
And they do lots of live music there, but I used to play arcades there when I was like 10, 11 years old. And
Nice.
yeah.
Change is fast, right? You've
Yeah.
seen a lot of change in the city.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of change in the city, even just from the last 15 years or whatever.
Oh, even like you can even say pre-pandemic, right? Just right before that, there's a lot of changes. And I saw this kind of on the road in Ontario, like a lot of venues that were already kind of teetering close to closing, and the, lockdown just kind of wiped all that out. But I feel like now there's some sort of resurgence of venues, and it's not like the typical bar where it's just beer consumption, alcohol consumption. There's so many different types of what you want to call venues now, coffee shops, even weed stores, and like all these different environments where people are intaking music. So like what's your view of that, and how like coming out of the lockdown, do you?
Well, I mean, it definitely feels like obviously it was a slow transition, but it does feel to me that there's a new like sort of hunger for live music. And I think I hadn't really thought of that or like noticed what you're saying with like the alternative types of spaces, but it makes sense. I mean, we know that young people are drinking less, so there's got to be some other sort of just strategically another way to get people out to see live music. And it's cool to hear that there's people are thinking outside the box. We've sort of played with this idea of doing more of like an art installation type of thing. Like we've played at 918 Bathurst. Do you know that space?
Yeah, yeah.
So and yeah, Rob's done a couple like sort of as a visual artist, like visual installation type stuff to accompany our sets, and so that's something we kind of want to explore a bit more going forward.
Yeah, we did that a couple of times at 918, using a lot of video projectors, like just sort of low grade video projectors, but a lot of them. And I sort of made this this psychedelic nature walk movie that was filmed over 14 seasons. So it has this really crazy hypnotic audio sort of track to it. And you're just sort of going through nature, seeing the seasons cycle with all these like crazy neon colours and things. And we showed it on 5 projectors. So it was a sort of an immersive experience. And I created this like carousel of revolving mirrors. So the video was just like all over. And where we are now with Lou, the studio has an event space with a capacity of about 150. So what I've done there is I've set up this video projector rig with like 10 video projectors all synced up to a single hub, where we can play these psychedelic movies I've made and just completely immerse every corner of the place. And so that's, for us, that's where we want to move with our live performances after the Horseshoe. I think our next show is going to be at our own event space, and it's going to be a unique experience, because these videos work as a good opening act for the band, because it puts people in an interesting headspace, and then we play a long set. It works quite
I
well.
totally agree, and I'm kind of getting into that myself, moving forward, and it's so important, that visual, eye candy, kind of just like, not background really, it just enhances everything nice, and it just kind of complements your music as well.
Well, it's also so easy and affordable, this technology now. So it's so easy to get creative. And if you want sort of swirling colours and things to accompany your set, it's much easier to get a cheap video projector and make something on iMovies than it is to buy like a big lighting rig.
Exactly, 1,000%. It's just your limit is your creativity, basically. I find that's happening a lot too. Like people are renting more event spaces as opposed to venues, right? Because with venues you're kind of boxed in a way, and you're limited to their what they have, and but an event space, you just like, it's like a clean slate almost in a way.
You want to be able to sort of create an experience, more of a unique sort of interesting experience. And when you play in a bar, the house music goes down, the band goes up, and then the music goes back up, So we want to do something a bit more sort of compelling than that, a bit more unique.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, it's a unique space to kind of grow like that creatively now, and I've seen other artists, they'll just have. It's B-roll that's not too demanding for your attention. It's kind of just like, wide shot with, crowds going through, and kind of just like, there's a loop or something through it. But it just gives that so much round aspect to your experience, right? And I agree with what you said too. Like it's a good opening act. Yeah. It totally is. It's you could just have that warm up the audience, really warm up people's senses.
Yeah, and it just helps, I think, to like decontextualize the idea of what a rock band is, and ideally, eventually for us, like it's a kind of a constant aspiration from the start. I'd say that we're, like, obviously we are a band. We're a rock band. Like just given the instrumentation, but we've talked about it from day one, more or less. That how can we kind of stretch that concept of what a rock band is, or what people might expect from a show, or what they might expect from an album, for that matter, And so it's been a really cool asset, I think, to have in the band. I mean, Rob's been doing the visual art thing for many, many years now, and it's really become a sort of a project in and of itself that's tied in with the band.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you had all this like footage from years ago. That's amazing to like hold on to, like footage. That's that like it's old footage you said you had, or
no, it was footage made about four years ago, but it was filmed on this waterway in Eastern Ontario over 14 months. So we got the whole
amazing
of the seasons.
That's a ton of B-roll.
Yeah. It's sort of contemplative.
Yeah.
Like the audio tracks just like bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's almost like an alien's perspective walking around this waterway, like inspecting things.
Yeah.
Zooming in on mushrooms and
calculating. And,
yeah.
Actually, Dr. Kesey, he's got a new song called "Looking at Humans," and it's kind of like he just teleports, and you can't tell if he's like the alien or the human, and he's just walking around, and he just kind of like stopping, looking at things, and I'm a videographer, like that was my first job when I was 21. So it's always been a news theme for me. So I always feel like the rapper is like the street reporter, always gathering information, news. So as soon as the lockdown hit, I grabbed my camera, and I got a month straight of B-roll. I went out every day for like 7 hours.
Wow.
And I made a doc, and it was just like a documentary with no interviews, no nothing, no voiceover. It was just a couple of my older instrumentals laid out, and it was just this timeline of what transpired. And I was like, I'll never have an opportunity to get footage like this ever again. So I just exhausted myself for 3 weeks straight, and I had all this B-roll. So now, because I was thinking coming out with this new album for like visual presentation for stuff like that, and I think I'm gonna use a lot of that B-roll, just kind of play in the background, because it's like all themed in that time space too. And I really appreciate the visual part of it too, but myself, it's just like when you're by yourself, it's kind of organizing everything, so it's like one step at a time, adding to the full experience. And
well, as Rob said, it's just amazing the tools we have at our disposal now, right? Like you don't even really need a crew, or we've got these gadgets that can do it all.
Well, I'm doing a multi-camera thing here, and I'd like to have an op, but it's like I'm just kind of reaching over and switching the cameras. It's all user friendly, and this pretty much can all fit in my backpack. Really, 3 cameras, a couple tripods, a switcher. I can even run the audio through the camera if I wanted to, without even using an extra mixer or anything. Yeah, so everything is compact and cheap now. How do you feel about live streaming? I feel like it's eventually gonna be a tool for us, like indie artists, almost an accompaniment of our live performances, and it's almost something like giving something to somebody that can't be there,
right?
Or and I thought, like, in the pandemic and coming out of it, I thought it was going to be such an intricate part to live experience. And in some aspects, it is. It's moving forward. And do you guys know the Painted Lady?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
we've
they
heard them.
they've been family to me for so long. Like I played there since 2016, so it's like a family. And so I went to Nikki and them, and I said, I really want to try this streaming thing, and they just gave me the venue. They're just like, you can do whatever you like
It's cool during the pandemic.
during the pandemic. So they just let me sit in there, tinker with all this shit, and we started a short series. Like I brought in good camera operators. I brought in a switcher operator. They had a PA, the audio guy there. So we tried this multicam thing. We got 4 or 5 shows done. We were doing like 2 a month. We got 5 episodes done, and then the second lockdown came again.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Lou at the Block, who we were just talking about, I know him and his guys. They definitely dabble in the live streaming world. They're always doing like sort of DJ sets once a week. I think, like, yeah.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they do that a lot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and it's that really interesting as a thing to do in the future.
Yeah.
I think we'd love to try it out.
Yeah, it's not something we've really tried so far.
You know Bar Cathedral?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the
That is-
Esplanade there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they used to be the old spaghetti factory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's still, I think, half of it is.
Yeah, half of it is.
Yeah, but I remember that as a kid. I was there at like
Okay.
10 years old. So I got to play there a few years ago, and I'm
Mm.
standing on stage and I'm like, fuck, that's the old spaghetti factory. But the reason why I said them is because they put in an infrastructure like that. So they have a mini like this, but it's a pro one, and it's like
Yeah.
much bigger. It's got room for about 12 cameras.
Mhm.
So they have an infrastructure of maybe just like 2 locked off cameras. So it's infrastructure set, and it's you can just add to it as you want. So if I were to do like a big production there, I would bring the rest of my cameras, and I would bring a couple camera operators, and you can make it a bigger production if you like. And El Macombo, they're fully equipped. They have like a full control room. They have like full cameras and a jib and all this stuff, and I feel so bad for them that because it was so long leading up to
I was gonna ask you,
reopen.
is it happening now?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
been happening since everything's opened again. But their week that they opened was 2020 in March.
Okay.
They
Oh,
opened.
yeah.
They opened, and then literally the next week,
Mm.
the first
Yeah.
pandemic hit, right? And then everything shut down. So I felt bad for them because that was so long. Everybody was looking forward to that for so long. The reopening of the El Macombo.
Yeah. Talking about history, right?
Yeah,
Amazing place.
yeah, and just even up Spadina, it used to be so many iconic places. Like you had the Silver Dollar, you had that, and even like that intersection was considered like the Mecca, like Spadina and Queen.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Horseshoe, you have all these other places right there, and I hope that area kind of gets a resurgence. Like I hope it's like a new
Mm.
resurged strip, you know. Toronto needs that. Toronto doesn't really have anything like that anymore.
A strip for live.
Yeah, that's known for, it's live music.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, I remember coming to Queen Street as a kid, from Peterborough with my old high school band and stuff like that. We'd play. I think it was, you mentioned the cathedral. I think it was called the Cathedrals. Is that still around on Queen Street?
Oh, that
That's
one.
what
I
I'm
think
talking
that's gone. Yeah, that's I know when you're talking about.
But
And
yeah.
then there was another. Oh, that was one called the Big Bop.
Mm.
It was a really big building. It was like Queen and Bathurst.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one. That's the first place I played.
Is that right? Yeah,
That
yeah,
place
me
is
too.
long gone.
Mm.
And then across the street was the original Healy's, Jeff Healy's bar.
Okay.
And it was kind of this, you know where the paddock is now?
Mhm.
It's a small, so that was the entrance for the old Healy's. So you'd go down underground, and then it was kind of like the band loading was on the other side of the street. It was weird. It was like the entrance was on Bathurst, but the band loading was like on Queen Street.
Okay, yeah.
And but that's what Queen West used to be. It was all these underground cool little places before the condos came and kind of ripped them all out. Because when I was in my early 20s, we used to always go to after hour clubs there, and there used to be if you go to Queen and Dufferin on the west side, south side, there used to be a building there, and you'd go in the back alley, knock on the door, they open these huge doors, and it was just like 3 stories down underground, and they'd be serving beer, and it'd be like partying all night, and they'd be open till like 8 in the morning, and but yeah.
We need more of that.
I don't know where those places
Yeah,
are.
where are those
I'm
places?
too old right now. I don't go to. I used to work in the club scene too. I used to be a bar back in the club scene in Toronto. So I feel like I was part of like the last hurrah of that kind of,
How about the
downtown.
legendary ravine parties?
Oh,
Did you ever do that? Those pop-up ones that like they would happen in the brickworks
yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there was always there was always like Liberty Village type of area, kind of where Strawn is.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a ton of factories there, like old abandoned factories, and you would hear about it, just by being in the bars in the West End, and then somebody would be like, "Oh, there's this after party over here tonight," and then you'd end up there, and there was always something going on there.
Well, we played once in, was it the Oculus?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I believe they used to have parties around
Yeah.
there in the old days, but
yeah.
we just did an afternoon show, I think.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
I love afternoon shows.
Yeah.
Matinee
Yeah.
experience.
Have you guys played a Sauce on the Danforth?
No.
Yeah, that's a good afternoon one. I did. We speaking of tight spaces, we had the whole 6-piece band in there, no stage in the back, and it was nice and cramped spot. Also, the Emmett Ray, it's a little kind of jazzy place on Dundas, our college there, and that was the last gig I had just a few weeks ago. But we had 6-piece band in there. It was pretty tight.
Yeah.
But people
It's
enjoyed
cozy.
it. Yeah, it was cozy.
Yeah.
And my band keeps adding and adding and adding. I want all the singers and everything.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's it takes time. We from again, like sort of from the start of the project, we always had like female backing vocals in mind for the Riches, and that was one of the pieces that I think took the longest, probably.
Yeah.
Right to get.
The personnel's changed quite a lot, but now we have Tina in backing vocals, and we're happy with how it sounds. And, but it takes a huge amount of time. I mean, the hardest part really was probably finding a drummer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Because Kyle's been with us now for a long time, 7 years or so. But we met about 15 drummers before we found one who could like just play a set with us, because we don't play within a genre of music. We're always changing. Every song is so different, and typically what we'd find is that a drummer could play 2 or 3 songs really well, but then they'd be lost. But Carl was the only one who could just play everything from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Need a versatile drummer.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
they could play everything, but they were a psychopath.
Yeah. We did
Or-
meet,
Or they spontaneously combust sometimes.
we met auditioned one drummer, and his small talk between songs was horrifying. There's no other word for it.
That could be cringy.
But he was telling us how he was looking at snuff porn in order to distract himself from his crippling
lovely.
alcohol dependence.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice icebreaker when
Yeah.
you meet new people.
Yeah. Big gulps, eh?
Well, see that?
Yeah.
I have a
He was
drummer.
good drummer.
My drummer. I have a few drummers actually. I have a drummer I work with. He was a buddy of mine. He's from Edmonton, but he's the guy I'm gonna be traveling a lot with. And I found that for myself, because hip hop is kind of easy to play along to, that I could find musicians pretty much anywhere I go. So if him and I are traveling together, he's got the drum, bass. We can find a bass player and a guitar player to help me play live in other places around the world. But he's got such a funny humor, and he's a younger guy, and I'll never give him a mic again. But he was like, Alex is the best raper out there. He goes, oh, I mean rapper. Sorry, I was reading that wrong. There's two. I like his sense of humor though.
Well, it's a lesson you only need to learn once.
Exactly, and
You
it's
know?
like mic clip.
Yeah, no, we're not micing him
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Silence back there. Yeah. You're not asked to speak. No, it's at first I was very like, because I made the few attempts with the band, and it's very hard. It's really hard. Everything, finding the right players, having the right vibe with them, arranging shows, and kind of even just arranging practices to everybody on the same schedule, and then to play it out, like to do that and then show up, and the whole setup and everything. And for me, forever, I was just like, I don't need any of that. So I was like, I got my phone with my backing tracks, so I'll make my way around there. And then I really started adding elements of live players. So I have Wayne Neon, who's been playing with me for like 8 years. Wayne's like 75, and he's been around this music scene forever, and he plays sax and flute. So I started adding that to the backing tracks. And then I had another player with me play guitar and keys. So that really started filling it out for me. And then eventually, just when everything was right, and it kind of, I don't force a lot of things too. So when it just kind of, the opportunity arises, of like, take advantage of it. So when the advantage came to have a band, I was like, oh, this is great. And now it's a whole different dynamic, because I wasn't really getting bored of performing my tracks, but I wanted to put it into a different maturity level too.
Right.
And I wanted to, showcase it in a different way.
Are you concerned about like trying to do this? Like, is the studio one thing and the live version is another?
No,
or
no.
Are you trying to? Is the idea to try to convey what's recorded in a live?
No, never, because I don't expect the people to know it exactly the way as I recorded it. It never comes out the same for us.
Yeah, well, I'm sure with hip hop it's even more like that. Right?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
you can't get that.
I just take
intro
what I
sound.
can get from them. So if it's slow sometimes or it's too fast, I just adjust. So that helps me like be on the ball a little more, and it kind of sharpens my skills too. So I have no expectations of like, this has got to sound like the record, interpreted live. It doesn't matter to me. But so we're pretty darn close with some of the tracks, which I do appreciate, but it doesn't have to be a carbon copy. It doesn't really matter to me. And I've had guys fill in last minute, and we've done totally different versions of the tracks, and I'm totally okay with that. And that just, I feel like it helps my skills, and kind of, it's like, keeps me sharp, because
and it can reveal the song.
Yes.
Too, right? It can. We felt that a few times, I think, where in having other people like invited into the circle for even just a session or whatever, or like trying out new players or whatever, inevitably it's always a different kind of vibe and different dynamic. Or like in some cases we've had to play shows with less than our full crew, and doing that, like stripping a song down, you can kind of hear it for what it is in a different way.
Yeah. But I think the thing about a band, you know, like every person brings so much to the sound, and with bands, with like whether it's hip hop or rock music, it's all about the color of the sound.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all about that quality. You know, I heard that you only have to listen to a fraction of a second of a Beatles song, and like 95% of people can identify it as a Beatles song. It's just that sound. And when you swap players out, the balance changes. So that's sort of the precious thing about it, is that all the individuals involved are represented in the sound that comes out, and
the personalities kind of pouring through. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, the only time I've swapped is really when people are sick, so it's more kind of just like filling in for the show. But now I have like so many amazing players that I've played with, and I'm just privileged to have. I can go to the East Coast and have some musicians play with me, and because it's just very hard. Like if I had the money, I'd bring bands with me everywhere. But yeah, no, and I feel like my name focused is not just me, it's just everybody. It's everybody that's been involved with me. It's everybody that's helped me make my videos, beats, my engineer. So like everybody is that name. Everybody that's played with me for 8 years or a year or two. So I feel like I'm just adding more and more musicians into my family, into me as a whole. And I'm going to Thailand for a month, and I'm hoping to kind of do shows there and kind of do the same thing, hoping to like meet some artists there, and maybe I can get them to play live with me, and I'll do their stuff. And
cool.
Just like collaborating like that on stage. And I like playing with full bands a lot, so I don't do many open mics anymore, but I do occasionally go to the one at Grossman's, and they're all like all seasoned jazz blues players, and they love when I just jump in and do hip hop, and so there's no format or anything, and I'm like, I don't need anything a certain way. I was just like, you guys play you, and I'll dive in, I'll jump in. And
do you freestyle?
I mostly freestyle, and I like it because you need to learn my new stuff sometimes. So I'll throw myself in the fire with my new stuff there and totally fuck up. And I just know it's part of the process. I love that process, and it's now I've seen some old clips of mine playing there, and me working out a song that I know very well now. So it's like now I'm excited because I'm going through that process again. And just that last album recently, because my first two albums I had completed them, and then I started performing. My last album I was almost complete, and I brought a lot of those almost incomplete songs on the road, and then I worked them out. Like I got people's reactions from them live, so then I kind of took that input from people and used it to finalize the songs. Oh, maybe I need to add this part here, and
it's cool.
They really reacted to something here.
Are you familiar with Swans?
Swans,
like a New York band they've been around for a long time, but they sort of do it that way, where they'll tour, they'll sort of develop their stuff on the road and then culminate it with a record, and they don't really tour the record in the end. They just
that's cool.
They work it out, and then they capture the thing that they've kind of worked out, the best version of the year or so or whatever that they've been on the road, and then move on. It's kind of an interesting inversion of the usual thing, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting band. They do a lot of stuff with art too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, they They have their own label, and yeah, if you check it out, Young Gods, they package all their own stuff and fund their own stuff by selling like exclusive live things and stuff like that.
Yeah, I really am fascinating with that. Everybody's really, so many artists are finding different ways of unique styles of merch and you know, selling their product in so many different ways now, and it's exciting. To me, I feel like all this stuff is like what the comedians had 10 years ago with podcasting. So with podcasting, with the comedians, really, they didn't need to rely on Just for Laughs anymore, or you know, being on a pilot, or like having your own sitcom, or Letterman, or all these things. Like, that was the only way to go for comics. Now it's like all that stuff's gone, and it's like you see so many comics thriving and doing well on the road, and like more than ever, so many comics making a huge living. And I feel like we're right around the corner as indie artists, with the technology, with the community, you know, with your own unique package. You know, I feel like this is the beginning for indie artists, and I feel like indie artists can really start making a living, a comfortable living, as long as, you know, we all kind of do the same thing as in a community together and support each other. And eventually we're not going to have to worry about griping about Spotify, because it might not even be a thing anymore, you know? Look at this Cindy Lee, Canadian artist who I think it's escapes me right now. Something Jubilee is the record, and it's topped a lot of these 2024 best of lists and whatnot, and you can't find it on Spotify or Apple Music. So it's a great example, kind of a rare example as far as I know, of like a really prominent underground artist who's like clearly, you know, doing something that's really good and really successful. But, you know, trying to deliberately kind of bypass that whole channel. Yeah, because to be honest, like, we're all getting fucked on the streaming thing. And it's nice to me. At first, it was nice to have it on so many different platforms that you can, you know, you were trying to be accommodating to your fans. And you're like, well, you can get it here or here or here. But now I feel like it's just kind of watered it down. You know what I mean? It's like available everywhere. And now if
I'm a physical guy. I like to hold it, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I miss that. I feel like it's been like, that's what's been missing with my art the last, you know, while, because I took a lot of pride into the whole package of it too, not just the cover, like the sleeve, the material, the back of it, the image you're going to put on the CD. It's all part of a theme that meshes it all together. And I'm from, you know, the CD area too, that every Tuesday I would go out and get a brand new album, and it's like you'd get it home, listen to it, and read the credits.
Well, and the other thing too is that if you spend $20 on it, I think that much more inclined to give it a shot more than once.
You're right.
Right? So there's something to be said for, I think, returning to something that maybe didn't make sense to you the first time, and having something physical like can kind of encourage a listener to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit strange now, because it seems like you're giving the music away for free, and the sort of intention is that you'll become popular giving this music away for free, and then those people will eventually come to see you in the flesh, and then, you know, if you've pleased them with your music and your performance, then they might purchase something at the show. So like a t-shirt, for example. So it's almost like you're making music to hopefully sell T-shirts one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas before, when you get something tangible, you have a record. The listener is sharing in something with the artist. Like this product is passed from one to the other, and as Eric says, like you spend money on it. Like in the old days, you take a risk.
Yep.
You'd buy a record, and there might only be one good song in it. And
Yep.
you'd feel like you wasted your
Oh, that was like 80% of the shit I bought.
Yeah.
CDs, you know, because you're like, oh, I saw the music video and that was good, and then the rest of the album is shite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read a lot from seeing other people's shows and being around other artists and merch, and I really feel like you said, it's something they can hold and own, and I see people's faces when they buy a vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the purchaser is so happy and the artist is so happy, because the purchaser is like, they feel like this is their secret.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the band that nobody else knows about, and they got the vinyl, you know, and they're so happy, and they followed them for a while, and that's always how I felt going to see live shows in Toronto, because there was no Spotify top playlist to tell you what, well, there was much music, but that's popular music, but you would just go to these venues randomly to the Horseshoe and just to see music, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this band's fucking phenomenal, I'm gonna start following them. And it was that, I love that part of going to see music, and I feel like kids nowadays, they don't have that, you know what I mean? They're just already told and shown what's popular already, and they're either into it or not. But I feel like now I've seen so many young people buying stuff because I feel like they've never had that. They've never had like ripping that open, looking at the liner notes and stuff like that, and yeah.
Well, and as you said before with the video analogy, right? Like there's just an endless channels for us to do things creatively, right? And so on one hand, it means that there isn't this sort of barrier to entry, but the flip side is that there's so many people doing it, right? And to be fair to like young listeners who are really enthused about musical culture, right? They know that they have everything at their fingertips, and the really resourceful ones are. It's kind of inspiring, right? They can explore, find underground stuff that's current or old stuff. So it's a cool time to be a music fan for those reasons.
Me and my buddy were listening to TV, and there is 8 and 9-year-old discovered Wu-Tang. We didn't even tell them. We're like, is that come from the basement? Is that cream? We walked down, and there's like,
yeah.
We didn't even have to influence them on this.
Yeah, well, it's so weird, isn't it, to see like a lot of bands from other eras who are like blowing up again because of TikTok and stuff, right?
Yeah. Who's this? Give this. I find you ever see this online? It's like obviously a well-established artist, and they're like, man, this guy's pretty good. They should give him a chance. Like he's he's gonna make it someday. Yeah. So you got the show January 18th.
Yeah.
And when's the release of the album? Or it is out. I'm sorry. It's already out.
The album came out July 18th last year. And we have a new single that will be coming out, not sure when exactly, probably maybe February or March.
Yeah, soon.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Well, it's been a blast.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having us.
Thanks for being here, guys. And it's been a nice chat. And yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right. Cheers, folks.